Let me start with a question. Why do most people work hard their entire lives, yet die struggling with bills, debts, and regret? It's not because they're lazy. Most people do work hard. They wake up early, spend years at jobs, follow the rules, and still end up stuck in the same loop. Work, pay, repeat. Napoleon Hill saw this pattern nearly a century ago, and it hasn't changed. He interviewed hundreds of the world's wealthiest people, from Henry Ford to Thomas Edison, and he found one brutal truth that most of humanity ignores. Riches begin with a state of mind. That's it. Not with a job, not with luck, not even with talent. It starts in your head. And that's exactly why most people never become rich, because their minds are trained for survival, not wealth. Think about it. From childhood, what are we told? Go to school, get good grades, find a safe job. Nobody says learn how money works. Nobody teaches you how to build something, invest, or create value. We're taught to seek security, not freedom. And that's the first mental prison Napoleon Hill tried to break. He said, "Success comes to those who become success conscious." But here's the catch. Most people are failure conscious. They expect little, dream small, and fear big. They want wealth, but deep inside they believe it's impossible for them. They say things like, "People like me can't get rich. It's all luck. It's for the privileged ones." That's the first and most dangerous lie. Believing that riches are for someone else. The truth? Every rich person you see today, every successful entrepreneur, creator, or thinker, once stood where you are now. Broke, confused, uncertain. But they changed one thing, their state of mind. Napoleon Hill called it definiteness of purpose. It means having one clear goal, backed by faith and the courage to act, no matter how impossible it looks. You see, the world doesn't reward those who wish. It rewards those who decide. That's where most people lose. They never decide. They just drift. They keep saying, "Someday I'll start, someday I'll change." But someday never comes. You know why? Because they are waiting for perfect conditions, for enough money, enough motivation, enough time. And by the time those conditions come, life is almost gone. Napoleon Hill warned us, do not wait. The time will never be just right. And yet, that's exactly what people do. They wait. They wait for the right idea, the right partner, the right opportunity. But the truth is, opportunities never come to the waiting. They come to the moving. That's why Hill said, action is the real measure of intelligence. You can read 1,000 books, watch every motivational video, and still stay broke if you never act. And the saddest part, most people don't even realize they've surrendered. They stop dreaming, stop believing, and call it being realistic. They trade their potential for comfort. They think a steady paycheck is safety, but it's not. It's just a quiet cage. Napoleon Hill said, most great people have attained their greatest success just one step beyond their greatest failure. But most never take that one more step. They quit too early, and that's the moment they lock themselves out of greatness. So let me tell you the truth that Hill wanted the world to remember. You are not broke because the world is unfair. You're broke because you've accepted an average mindset. You've accepted struggle as normal. You've accepted fear as logic. You've accepted doubt as wisdom. But the second you decide to change that, really change it, everything begins to shift. Let's talk about the invisible trap most people live in, the one that keeps them working hard but never truly moving forward. It's not bad luck. It's not a broken system. It's a mental program, one that starts the moment we're born. Napoleon Hill called it the poverty consciousness. It's a state of mind where people are trained, not consciously but slowly, to expect little, to dream small, and to settle for less. Think about how we grow up. We're told, don't aim too high, you'll get disappointed. Be practical. Money doesn't grow on trees. You can't have everything. We hear those words so often that they become part of us. They shape how we think, how we dream, and how we act. And eventually, without realizing it, we build our own mental ceiling. A ceiling that says, this is all I deserve. That's the poverty trap. It's not in your bank account, and it's in your mindset. Most people don't even question it. They live their whole lives playing small because they think that's what's normal. They believe wealth belongs to others, to geniuses, to the lucky ones, to people born rich. But Napoleon Hill proved otherwise. He showed that anyone who learns how to control their thoughts, their emotions, and their decisions can build wealth. Because wealth doesn't start with money. It starts with belief. And here's the strange part. Poor people and rich people both think about money constantly, but in completely different ways. Poor people think about not having money. They think about bills, rent, debt, struggle. Their thoughts revolve around scarcity, and what you focus on expands. Rich people think about creating money. They think in terms of ideas, value, opportunity. They see money as energy, something that flows where value grows. Napoleon Hill said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But here's what people miss. Most minds conceive and believe limitations, so they achieve exactly that, limited lives. Every day you can see it. Someone has a great idea, but instead of acting, they say, "What if I fail?" Someone wants to start a business, but they think, "What if people laugh?" Someone dreams of moving abroad, but they tell themselves, "It's too risky." You see, the fear of failure kills more dreams than failure ever could. Hill wrote, "Fear is nothing more than a state of mind. And yet fear is what shapes 99% of people's decisions. They fear losing money, so they never invest. They fear rejection, so they never ask. They fear embarrassment, so they never try." But the irony? The very fears they're protecting themselves from are the same things, keeping them trapped. Because the person who avoids pain also avoids growth. Napoleon Hill called this drifting. Drifters move through life reacting instead of creating. They follow the crowd, avoid responsibility, and live on autopilot. They wait for something to change, not realizing that they are the thing that must change. And then there's the opposite, the non-drifter. The one who thinks clearly, acts boldly, and directs their mind toward purpose. That's the kind of person who becomes rich, not by luck but by mental control. So if you've ever wondered why life feels stuck, why it seems like no matter how much effort you put in, you don't move ahead, it's because you've been operating under the wrong mental program. You've been trying to build wealth with a mindset built for survival. And you can't grow rich thinking like a survivor. You grow rich thinking like a creator. Hill said, "A man is the master of his own fate, the captain of his own soul, because he has the power to control his thoughts." That's the key. Control your thoughts and your circumstances will follow. But lose control of your thoughts and your circumstances will control you. Most people are slaves not to others but to their own minds. They obey their fears. They listen to their doubts. They serve their limitations. And that's why they stay where they are, stuck, frustrated, and quietly dying inside. But once you break that mindset, once you replace fear with faith and doubt with desire, you start to see opportunities everywhere. The world doesn't change. You do. And that changes everything. If you could see the real enemies that keep people from becoming rich, you'd be shocked to realize that they're invisible. They don't live outside you. They live inside your mind. Napoleon Hill called them the 6 basic fears. He said these fears control people more than poverty, more than failure, even more than death itself. They are the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love, the fear of old age, and the fear of death. Now let's be honest, these fears run through all of us. But for most people, they don't just pass by. They take control. And when fear takes control, faith disappears. Let's start with the first and most dangerous one, the fear of poverty. It's strange, right? The more people fear being broke, the more they attract situations that keep them broke. They hesitate to take risks. They hold back from starting something new. They play it safe, and safety becomes a prison. They think working harder at the same job will change everything, but it doesn't. Because the system is designed to keep them working for money, not with money. Hill said, "No man can succeed in a line of endeavor which he does not like." Yet people stay in jobs they hate because fear whispers, "What if you can't find better? What if you fail? What if people laugh?" And that's how fear quietly kills the dream before it's even born. Then there's the fear of criticism. This one stops millions of people from ever even trying. You want to start something new, but your mind says, "What will people think?" So you stay silent. You suppress your potential to keep others comfortable. Napoleon Hill met people who could have changed industries, but they didn't because they were afraid of being judged. And here's the harsh truth. The people whose opinions you fear, they're not thinking about you at all. They're too busy worrying about themselves. Then there's the fear of ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. Each one steals your focus and energy. You stop living fully because you're afraid of losing. But the one that silently grows stronger than them all is self-doubt. Doubt is like a slow poison. It whispers, "You're not good enough. You're too late. You don't have what it takes." And people believe it. They believe those lies more than their own dreams. They start comparing themselves to others, scrolling through social media, watching success stories and thinking, "Why not me?" But here's what they don't see. Every successful person once had those same doubts. They just didn't let the doubt win. Now let's talk about the third enemy, excuses. Excuses are fear in disguise. They sound logical. They sound safe. But they're just lies we tell ourselves to avoid discomfort. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I'll start when things calm down. But guess what? Things never calm down. There's no perfect moment. There's only now. Napoleon Hill wrote, "Procrastination, the opposite of decision, is a common enemy that every man must conquer." Every time you delay action, you weaken your willpower. You teach your brain that comfort is more important than growth. And over time, that becomes your identity. You stop being a creator and become a consumer of your own excuses. Most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they lack the courage to begin. They wait until they feel ready. But the truth is, nobody ever feels ready. You just start and readiness comes later. The people who become rich aren't the smartest. They're the ones who start before they're ready. Fear, doubt, and excuses. They're the invisible chains that keep you tied to mediocrity. But once you break those chains, you begin to see what Hill called the other self, the powerful version of you that's been buried under fear all along. And in the next part, we'll talk exactly about that. The other self, the version of you that thinks rich, acts bold, and attracts success naturally. Napoleon Hill once said something that most people skip over. Every man has two selves. One is controlled by fear, the other by faith. He called them the ordinary self and the other self. The ordinary self is the one you live with every day. The one that says, "I can't do this. I'm not lucky. It's too late for me. I'll start tomorrow." It's the version of you that lives safely, follows the crowd, and never questions the system. This self is guided by fear, doubt, and the habit of waiting. But then there's the other self, the version of you that rarely wakes up. It's powerful, courageous, creative, and unstoppable. It doesn't wait for the perfect time, and it creates it. Hill said, "When you are ready to meet your other self, it will appear." That's deep. Because he didn't say when life gets easier or when you become rich. He said when you are ready. In other words, the moment you decide to take control of your thoughts, you meet the version of yourself that was always meant to lead. Think about it. You've had moments where you acted like that person. Moments when you believed in yourself, when you stood up for what you wanted, when you didn't care what others thought. That's your other self. But it's buried under layers of fear, laziness, and other people's opinions. Hill believed that riches are not found outside. They start inside your mind. He said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." This isn't some motivational quote. It's psychology. If your mind believes you can't, your actions will follow that belief. If your mind believes you can, you'll start finding ways, not excuses. That's what separates the wealthy from the average. The wealthy don't wait for opportunity. They create it. They don't react to life. They design it. They don't focus on problems. They focus on possibilities. You've probably met people who have less talent than you, less education, maybe even less support, and yet they're miles ahead. Why? Because they activated their other self. They learned to think differently. They stopped saying "I can't" and started asking "How can I?" It's a small shift in words, but it changes everything. When you say "I can't," your brain shuts down. But when you say "How can I?" your brain begins searching for answers. That's how wealthy minds work. They don't complain about the system, and they study it. They don't envy the rich, they learn from them. They don't wait for motivation, they rely on discipline. Hill interviewed more than 500 of the richest people in the world, and he noticed one thing in common. Every single one of them had trained their mind to stay focused on what they wanted, not on what they feared. And that's the secret. You can't think like the poor and expect to live like the rich. You can't spend your days doubting and expect confidence to appear. You can't speak negativity and expect success to show up. The other self thinks in terms of abundance, not lack. It says, there's always a way. There's more than enough for everyone. I'll figure it out. The ordinary self complains about problems. The other self looks for patterns, lessons, and opportunities. The ordinary self waits for motivation. The other self builds habits. The ordinary self blames others. The other self takes responsibility. The truth is, becoming rich is less about money and more about mind control. Not controlling others, but controlling your own emotions, impulses, and thoughts. Hill said, until you have learned to control your thoughts, you will never be able to control your money. Look around. Most people are emotionally broke long before they're financially broke. They panic at failure, compare themselves constantly, and waste energy worrying about what others think. And that's why they stay stuck. Not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack mental strength. The wealthy mindset doesn't mean arrogance. It means belief. Calm, disciplined belief in yourself and your purpose. And once you build that belief, you start seeing opportunities that were invisible before. Your brain literally filters the world differently. You notice people who can help you. You notice skills you can learn. You notice doors that were always there, but you were too blind to see. That's the other self in action. It's not magic. It's focus. It's faith. It's you operating without fear. When Hill said, "You are the master of your fate, the captain of your soul," he meant that your thoughts, not your background, determine your wealth. The moment you realize that, you stop waiting for luck, and you start creating your own version of it. Because here's the truth. Luck isn't random. Luck is the reward for preparation and persistence. So if you're not rich yet, it's not because the world is unfair. It's because you haven't yet met your other self, the one who never gives up, never blames, and never stops believing. And when you finally meet that version of you, money will stop being the goal. It'll just be the result. Napoleon Hill spent more than 20 years studying the richest and most powerful people of his time. He interviewed Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, and dozens of self-made millionaires. And after all those years, he found something shocking. It wasn't intelligence, education, or even luck that made them rich. It was a formula, a simple but powerful combination of three forces: faith, desire, and action. Let's start with the first one, desire. Hill said, the starting point of all achievement is desire. Not a wish, not a hope, a burning desire. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they never truly want something bad enough. They say, I want to be rich. But their actions say, I'm okay being average. They dream at night and doubt in the morning. They start projects but quit when it gets hard. Hill called that a weak desire, a wish without a backbone. But a burning desire, that's different. It doesn't fade when life gets tough. It doesn't stop when people laugh at you. It grows with every setback. Think about it. Every great invention, every massive company, every personal success story started with one person who refused to give up. Desire is the fire that keeps you alive when nothing else does. It's what gets you up early and keeps you awake late. It's what makes your dreams non-negotiable. But desire alone isn't enough. You can want something for years and still never get it. That's where faith comes in. Hill said, faith is the head chemist of the mind. Faith turns your desire into belief, and belief turns into reality. When you start to believe that something is possible, your brain begins to find ways to make it happen. Your energy changes. Your confidence grows. You start attracting opportunities that match your mindset. But here's the problem. Most people have faith in failure. They believe things won't work out. They believe they'll get rejected. They believe the rich are just lucky. That's still faith, just in the wrong direction. Hill said, both fear and faith demand that you believe in something you can't see. The difference? Faith builds your future. Fear destroys it. So if you're going to believe in something, believe in your ability to grow. Believe in your potential. Believe that your story isn't over yet. Faith gives strength to desire. But even faith and desire are useless without action. That's the final piece. Action is the bridge between dreams and reality. It's where most people stop and they dream, they plan, they talk, but they never move. Hill said, action is the real measure of intelligence, because no matter how many ideas you have, if you don't act, nothing changes. You can read every self-help book in the world, but if you don't apply the first lesson, you'll stay exactly where you are. Think about how many people say, I'll start tomorrow. They've been saying that for years. Tomorrow isn't the problem, the mindset is. The wealthy act while others overthink. They don't wait for perfect timing. They create momentum by starting. Hill found that all successful people share one trait: decision. They decide quickly and change their minds slowly. Unsuccessful people do the opposite. They take forever to decide, and then they change direction at every obstacle. That's why success often looks unfair, because decisive people move while others hesitate. Faith gives you courage. Desire gives you energy. Action gives you results. That's the triangle of wealth. Faith, desire, action. Miss one and the whole structure collapses. If you have desire but no faith, you'll doubt yourself into failure. If you have faith but no action, you'll dream without results. If you have action but no desire, you'll burn out. But when all three align, when you deeply want something, believe it's possible, and take consistent action, you become unstoppable. And that's what Hill meant when he said, riches begin with a state of mind. He didn't mean money appears out of thin air. He meant that once your mind shifts, your world follows. Your habits change, your choices change, your results change. You stop working for survival and start working for purpose. The poor wait to feel ready. The rich act even when they're scared, because they know motion creates clarity, and every small step you take builds a little more faith. Every tiny win increases your belief that you can do more. That's how momentum builds, not from one big leap, but from thousands of small, consistent steps fueled by faith and desire. So if you're listening to this and you've been waiting for a sign to start, this is it. You don't need more time. You don't need more money. You don't need more motivation. You need one decision to move. Because your life won't change when you get lucky. It'll change when you stop waiting and start creating. In the next part, we'll explore why most people destroy their own chances of success. Without even realizing it, Napoleon Hill called it self-sabotage through negative associations. And once you understand it, you'll see why so many people never reach their potential. Let's be honest. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they're surrounded by people who keep them small. Napoleon Hill said, your environment, your friends, your habits, these shape your destiny. But we don't notice it. We think the people around us don't affect us that much. We believe we're immune to influence. Yet look at your life. How many times have you lowered your standards just to fit in? How many times have you stayed quiet because you didn't want to sound different? How many times have you said it's fine, when deep down you knew it wasn't? That's how dreams die, not in one big moment, but slowly, through the comfort of average company. Hill found something dark while interviewing successful people. He said most failures could be traced back to the wrong environment. People who had ambition but surrounded themselves with negativity, gossip, or mediocrity, and eventually, they became what they surrounded themselves with. You can't soar like an eagle if you keep walking with chickens. Here's the truth. Your friends shape your thinking shapes your habits, and your habits shape your future. That means, without realizing it, your circle might be deciding your destiny. If you hang around people who complain, you'll start complaining. If you spend time with people who make excuses, you'll start making excuses. If your circle spends weekends wasting time, your brain will tell you that's normal, and then you wonder why you're stuck. It's not bad luck, it's bad influence. Hill warned that most people never become rich because they're too afraid to outgrow their circle. They crave acceptance more than success. They fear being alone more than being average. And so they trade their potential for belonging. But here's the twist. Growth always begins with discomfort. You can't evolve and stay comfortable at the same time. The moment you start improving, you'll notice the world treating you differently. Some friends will mock you. Some will distance themselves. Some will say, you've changed. They're right. You have. And that's exactly what you're supposed to do, Hill said. If you want to be rich, associate with successful people. Not because rich people have all the answers, but because success has an energy, an environment that normalizes ambition instead of mocking it. If you can't find people like that in real life, read their books, listen to their podcasts, watch their interviews. Let their mindset replace the noise around you. Because your mind is like a sponge. It absorbs everything, good or bad. Every conversation you have, every video you watch, every environment you stay in, it's programming you. And most people are programmed for comfort. They don't realize that comfort is the most dangerous addiction in the world. It doesn't kill you instantly. It kills your dreams slowly. You stop pushing. You stop learning. You stop fighting for the version of you that you once promised yourself to become. Comfort feels good today, but it will cost you decades tomorrow. Hill once wrote, "Great achievement is usually born of great sacrifice, and that sacrifice often starts with letting go. Letting go of toxic company, of lazy habits, of the belief that life will somehow get easier on its own. Nothing changes until you do. Because no matter how many motivational videos you watch, no matter how many books you read, if you go back to the same environment that drains your energy, you'll end up the same. That's the harsh truth Hill tried to tell the world. Your success doesn't depend on the economy, your parents, or your luck. It depends on your circle, your thoughts, and your habits. So ask yourself, who am I becoming around these people? Do they challenge me or comfort me? Do they help me grow or hold me down? If your answer makes you uncomfortable, good. That's where change begins. Because the day you start choosing growth over approval, discipline over distraction, and peace over noise, that's the day you meet your true self. And once you meet that version of you, money, success, and power stop being the goal. They become the natural outcome of who you are. Hill ended his life's work with one message that still echoes across generations. Your only limitation is the one you set up in your own mind. So stop waiting for someone to believe in you. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop shrinking yourself to fit into small circles. Decide today. You will not live a life built on fear, laziness, or comfort, because comfort won't save you. Courage will. And when you choose courage, everything changes. Your mind sharpens. Your confidence grows. Your energy attracts the right people, the right ideas, the right opportunities. That's when life starts opening up. Not because the world suddenly became fair, but because you finally stopped hiding from who you could be. So don't be afraid to walk alone for a while. Don't be afraid to be misunderstood. Don't be afraid to outgrow the people who never wanted to grow at all. Because the world doesn't need another average person. It needs one more awakened soul. And maybe that's you.